All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Debbie Ashbrook. I'm the CEO of the Central Panhandle Association of Realtors, and we have an exciting session for you today talking about workforce housing here in Panama City and then in the surrounding communities. With that, I would like to introduce to you Vince Price is our workforce task force. And Vince, if you wouldn't mind, will you please introduce our speaker today?
Thanks a lot, Debbie. Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to welcome you to a presentation being put on by Central Panhandle Association of Realtors and our Government Affairs Committee. I'm excited to introduce you to our city manager, Mark McQueen. I would like to thank him for joining us this morning and sharing the exciting information about the housing programs and the fundings that are going to be available to our area. And he also has brought the assistant housing director with him, Sheila Ware. So pay attention. They're going to have a lot of good information and you might want to take some notes. So Mark, thank you again for taking the time out to join us, and hand it over to you.
Hey, Vince, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Debbie, thank you for extending the invitation for me to come and be a part of this with CPAR, just an incredible organization that does so much for our community. I thank you for what you do in affecting people's lives. As we're going to talk about housing. Housing is the core issue to everybody that is here in Bay County, and how we meet their housing needs is vital. And certainly in the wake of Hurricane Michael, that became even more acute. So I do thank you so much for the invitation, and I'm privileged, as you mentioned, Vince, to be joined with Sheila Ware, who's our Deputy Director for the Community Development Office, which is managing the distribution of the funding, some of the funding that I'm going to be speaking about tonight this morning, and hopefully helping our citizens to create options for their housing solutions. So with that, I know we've got a slide deck, and I appreciate Richard. Thanks for bringing that up. And with that, we all, we're talking about the Hurricane Michael Housing Recovery Program, and certainly we all remember what took place on that fateful day of 10 October 2018. And so we had Hurricane Michael that came, and it was eventually categorized as a Category 5 storm. We all know the intensity and the viciousness of that storm, and then certainly we all emerged in the aftermath to realize that we took a huge hit. And with that, we've seen it in a lot of different data points that suggest the scope and scale of the storm. We've had over 60,000 Bay County residents that registered with FEMA and gaining FEMA assistance, and we had over 18,000 changes of address because we had so much displacement of citizens that took place from that storm, all the way from Mexico Beach, all the way to the Panama City Beach, and all the way north. Certainly so many people impacted by that. Over 80% of the homes in Panama City alone were either damaged or destroyed. And within the city of Panama City, we had over 14,000 changes of address that were registered with the post office in the first 3 months after the storm. Certainly what's interesting about this is we always get rated and compared against Hurricane Irma. And Hurricane Irma obviously happened in 2017, and that affected the 50 counties, principally in the peninsula of the state of Florida. And but when you look at the economic impact relative to the storm, certainly the impact per person on a per person basis was significantly more from Hurricane Michael. And you see the data point there, $3,500 per person relative and compared to $135 per person coming out of Hurricane Irma. And what we realized coming out of that storm was that the long pole in the tent for our recovery was going to be able to address our housing needs. And I want to speak to that in just a few minutes. But I would like to say that, what I have been so proud of in our city, as well as our county and all of the residents there, is the fact that we have demonstrated to all a resiliency and a resolve in the wake of Hurricane Michael. And I have to tell you, I couldn't be more proud of them, because without that resilient effort and the resolve of our citizens to do better and to emerge from the storm, I'm not sure where we would be. Certainly, we saw a number of our citizens pouring out, and it was an amazing outpouring of neighbors helping neighbors, which really helped to do the heavy lifting and set the conditions for the successful recovery of our Bay County. With that in mind, certainly Herculean efforts took place. Nearly 20 million cubic yards of debris were removed. And we still have debris being removed, but right now that's what's been registered through FEMA reimbursements. Also, within FEMA, they've documented over $1 billion worth of damage, and that's significant that they've obligated that amount of money so far. And the reason I mention it's significant is when the threshold reaches $2.4 billion, it changes the cost share from a 75-25 split to a 90% being funded by the federal government, 5% funded by the state government, and 5% by local government. So it reduces the significant cost share once that threshold of obligated funds reaches $2.4 billion. To be clear, that is separate and distinct from anything taking place at Tyndall Air Force Base, which does not get counted in that threshold that I'm speaking of. But having said that, Tyndall Air Force Base is underway in rebuilding, $4 billion rebuild effort there. And we're very grateful to the Congress, as well as to the Commandant of the Coast Guard, that renegotiated the contract with Eastern Shipbuilding so that they can continue to be a primary and principal employer in our community. And certainly we did see a massive rebuild, and we still see rebuilding taking place in our medical community, principally our hospitals, but also our second, third, and fourth tiered medical capacities throughout the Bay County area with regard to private practitioners, dialysis centers, cancer treatment centers, rehabilitation centers, nursing homes, and all of the like. We continue to rebuild, and that's what's going to continue to get the city and the county to be in a position of strength as we look to the future. Next slide, please. So with that, we considered, as we're looking at how do we rebuild our community, meaning Bay County, as I shared earlier, the long pole in the tent for our recovery was going to be housing. And with that in mind, we're so fortunate that the state legislature took affirmative action to help our community. Specifically, they did that by authorizing $36 million to be allocated to Bay County and Panama City to be able to address the housing needs. That money comes from the Florida Finance Housing Corporation. Much of that money is derived from the dock stamps that are accumulated across the state and is issued through the SHIP program that has been in place for a number of years. And with that $36 million, $28 million was allocated to Bay County and our sister cities, and then $8 million to Panama City. And the reason that is because Panama City has its own housing office, as well as the Bay County and the sister cities have its own housing office. And it happens to be that they're all conjoined together under one roof. And the beauty of that is that ensures that all of our citizens, regardless of where they live, are being served. With that, with that allotment came a proactive leadership by the Bay County Commissioners, as well as the Panama City Mayor and Commissioners, to revise the LHAP, which is the Long Range Housing Assistance Program. And in that program, there are 5 key strategies that we were employing to help our citizens throughout their recovery efforts with regard to housing. First, as we saw in the wake of the storm, is that a lot of our housing stock, not only owner-occupied housing stock, but rental properties and investment properties were damaged or destroyed. And we lost a lot of housing stock, and as a result of that, simple supply and demand created an acceleration of rental rates across the community, and with that created a barrier to entry to getting housing. to getting rental housing. And so the rental assistance strategy was revised to ensure that we're helping all of our community members to, if they need to have rental housing, is to help them with their first month and last month and utility deposits for a maximum of $5,000 of assistance that's available through the rental assistance program. The second strategy that we were looking at is owner-occupied rehabilitation of homes. And what we saw across the city, and I think many in the audience remember the challenges with regard to insurance. There were a lot of problems with insurance settlements. Many people received less than what they thought it would take to rebuild their homes. And so there was a delta created between what they received in their insurance and what it was going to take to rebuild their homes. Additionally, we had a number of folks that were underinsured or not insured at all. And so as a result, their homes are in a deteriorated state. With the owner-occupied rehabilitation program, it's up to $105,000 worth of assistance to assist that owner to get their home back up into a habitable condition. Now, I'm not talking about a Chip and Joanna or fixer-upper. I'm talking about a primary residence for a homeowner to be able to improve their home to make it habitable. And that's an incredible program so that we can ensure that people are able to stay where they have bought their homes previous to the storm. The third strategy that we were looking at doing is, it came as a result principally because of what we learned about Bay County relative to other communities that have been impacted by hurricanes. Specifically, FEMA came in very early and shared with us all that they found the area that was impacted by Hurricane Michael to be almost exactly opposite of what they have seen in other impacted areas by hurricanes, specifically with regard to housing. What they've seen in other areas is 70% homeowners and 30% renters. And what they found in our area was the reverse of that, 30% renters and 30% homeowners and 70% renters. And certainly we saw in the wake of the storm, a number of our citizens left Panama City, particularly those that were renters, because they really had no roots to the community. And so, and at that time, we'll all remember that in 2018, the economy was churning across the United States. It was, you could go anywhere with virtually no unemployment. You could go anywhere and get a job. And so a lot of people voted with their feet and said, hey, I'll come back when the community is rebuilt, but in the interim, I'm going to leave. Well, having opportunities to help change renters to becoming homeowners is a key strategy embedded in what we're talking about with the LHAP. That purchase assistance is based on extremely low, and moderate income households as defined by HUD. And it's either $30,000, $40,000, or $50,000 worth of down payment assistance and closing cost assistance. The closing cost assistance is capped out at $5,000, and then you subtract that 5 from either the 30, 40, or 50, and that's what you have available to go toward purchase assistance. It's a big program, and certainly I think that it will help people move from renters to becoming owners. The fourth strategy that we were looking to do is helping folks with title assistance. We have a number of our individuals who reside in homes are doing so, and they pay the taxes on it, or the property taxes, and they reside there, but yet they do not have title to that home. That title is still in the name of maybe their father, grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle, somebody else that was intended to heir that property to the current occupant, but they never recorded those documents correctly or appropriately through the court. And so as a result of that, the current occupants of the home have no clear title, which puts that occupant in a very difficult situation. Because they have no clear title, they're not able to convey the property. They're not able to go out and get a home equity line of credit on the property. they're really in paralysis in able to do anything with that property, even the ability to get insurance because they can't prove that they're the owners of that property. So helping our citizens that have clouded title on their property is one of the strategies that we have embedded in our long-term housing assistance program. And then the fifth strategy that's noted here is foreclosure and mortgage assistance. And we've had a lot of folks that were negatively impacted by the storm. Their employers were impacted by that. Their earning potential was impacted, and as a result, they were at risk of losing their homes. And so we have assistance available to help close the gap for delinquent mortgages to help ensure that individuals stay in their homes. So if we can go to the next slide, I'm hopeful that you'll be able to hear a testimony from one of our first-time homeowners that actually applied for this program. It's Kenesha Johnson. So let's see if we can run that video. Is that possible?
In the wake of Hurricane Michael, the lack of affordable housing has emerged as the most pressing challenge for Panama City and the surrounding municipalities. ReHOUSE Bay was launched to raise awareness about available housing resources, to rebuild, rehouse, and revitalize Bay County.
Well, the ReHOUSE Bay program is a tremendous opportunity for us to really make a difference in housing for Bay County and the city of Panama City. Hurricane Michael certainly was a huge, devastating event that we all experienced. Number one thing that it really crushed was our homes and all of our housing stock.
ReHOUSE Bay is for any resident of Bay County that's needing housing assistance. If you have not owned a home in the last 3 years and you're in need of down payment or closing cost assistance, as long as you income qualify for the program based on household size, then you would be able to go onto the website and apply to obtain assistance to purchase your first home.
So there are 5 key components to the ReHOUSE Bay program. The first is rental assistance. Secondly, we have down payment assistance for home purchasing. Third area that we have is legal assistance to clear clouded title. The fourth program that we have is owner-occupied rehabilitation of a home. And then the fifth is foreclosure prevention.
ReHOUSE Bay, those funds are there for anyone that needs assistance for a home, whether it's to make their monthly payment, make their utility payment, or if they want to take that leap to finally buy that home that they've always dreamed of and never had the opportunity or the resource to do so. That funding is there to help them get through this pandemic that we're going through and the recovery of Hurricane Michael.
Visit rehousebay.org. It's a simple website that is easy to do, and in 5 minutes you can determine your eligibility on what programs that you would like to have extended to you.
When a client applies with ReHOUSE Bay on rehousebay.org, it's not just filling the application out. Once the application is received, we're going to pretty much do hand-holding for you. We're going to walk you through that process step by step.
For me personally, it has been life-changing. The process was rather quick, rather smooth and easy. I think first thing is you just got to be determined. When I came to this program, that was one of the things I've always mentioned was I want my children to have their own backyard. To see my children that happy is everything to me.
I urge everyone to go to rehousebay.org, go on there, look at the programs, take advantage of this. We've got $36 million allocated for anyone in need in Bay County. This is just a great program. I mean, I would have loved my mother. We moved here in 80 and it was 1986 before she had enough money to get us in a house. So that kind of program wasn't available back to us. So I'm thankful it's here.
For any of those who feel like they may not meet requirements, don't have the power to do it on their own, ReHOUSE Bay is definitely a program that will push you to homeownership and definitely hold your hand through the whole way.
This is a big deal for this community, and we couldn't be more proud to have this opportunity.
Thank you. So as indicated in the video, rehousebay.org is the gateway to accessing the strategies that I shared with you a few moments ago. And it's a very straightforward application process. There's an eligibility survey that will be done, and within a few minutes you can determine eligibility for the various programs that we've talked about. Then there's a very simple online application with that and how these programs work. We've got an FAQ piece of that so we can answer those commonly asked questions to help inform our customers and clients of the opportunities that exist within the ReHOUSE Bay program. Bid alerts are there mostly to help developers and builders to be part of the solution in this. And we're happy to partner with these great companies and builders to help solve our acute housing shortage. This is a great simple site, rehousebay.org, and it's imperative that as you're starting to work with clients in a program that you have them work through that process very, very early through the rehousebay.org gateway and website that I shared up. Now, if you'll go to the next slide, as you go into the ReHOUSE Bay, it also has an opportunity to share with you real-time data of where we are in our application process, how many applications have been processed, what is the demographics and what is the income levels of the individuals, what is their reasoning, and what is the program that they're doing. This is a very helpful tool to ensure that everyone knows where their application is throughout the entire process of the program. If once somebody submits their application, they will get daily reminders of via email or text that says, hey, we're still waiting for whatever information, whether it's income verification or their taxes or other documentation, driver's license, social security, whatever those things are, which can all be uploaded remotely, to be able to have contact with those customers, to be able to share with them what is still needed and that we're still standing by to assist them with meeting their particular housing program that they've applied for. If we could go to the next slide. Certainly we've got the ReHOUSE Bay program that we're talking about. And as I mentioned, it's $25,000 to $45,000 worth of down payment assistance, and then you add the $5,000 toward closing costs. So that's where it gets to becoming $30,000 to $50,000 worth of down payment assistance. And clearly our audience is really striving to meet the needs of our homeowners, not only that, but our renters and certainly developers and builders that are looking to help solve our community's housing shortfall. It's all available now. It's $36 million for the entirety of Bay County, which applies to anyone, regardless of whether they live in incorporated or unincorporated Bay County. And you simply apply online, or you can come here to the Panama City City Hall and be able to apply. And if you don't have a computer, that's okay. Come on down and we'll give you an application, or we'll mail you an application, and we'll input it into the management system to be able to help you bridge that gap. This is a 30-year forgivable grant. So if they purchase assistance, if they buy a home and they hold it for 30 years, that down payment assistance is fully forgivable. And this, by contrast, is a little bit different from what the governor announced last week. And we're so grateful that the governor continues to ensure that the housing needs of the area impacted by Hurricane Michael is being addressed. Last year, as many of you know, there was a $5 million allocation that was made, and that process was made through Florida Finance Housing Corporation, which worked directly with lenders to extend $15,000 worth of down payment assistance. And that $5 million ran out relatively quickly, since it impacted the entire Hurricane Michael region in the panhandle of Florida. So with that, last week, the governor announced a double down on that effort, and he's pledged $10 million to do the exact same thing. So that $15,000 worth of down payment assistance is available right now. And you can see on the slide here, it's a program that is available, and it's a 20% per year is forgivable on that particular program, which is certainly fairly significant. The next slide, please. So what is the trail to securing the funding? And this is a very simple depiction of what a customer will go through, particularly early with the Homebuyer program that we've been talking about. And again, I can't over stress the point that it's very, very important that individuals apply very early in their housing journey. So they need to go to ReHouseBay.org and get that approval, and so they can know exactly what they'll have available to them as they get ready for the Homebuyers program. The second thing is, work with the lenders to get pre-approved. You still have to gain funding and mortgage, actual mortgage through a financial institution. There are several classes that we have embedded in the ReHouse Bay program to help home buyers in their first-time home buying experience. It's mandatory that we do that type of training. Obviously, the fourth one is to work with realtors to find a home that fits within their budget. And that's very important so we don't have individuals overextended in their housing journey. The fifth one, and very important, is to pass a home inspection. And that takes a minimum of 15 days to get that house inspection scheduled and done and have the repairs remedied. So you already, when you start backwards planning on this thing, you realize you can't apply today to go to a closing tomorrow because there's a lot of issues that have to be done and certified before that final disbursement is made. And then, of course, what we're all looking for is to have that customer and client to be able to move into their homes and have that closing and purchase assistance available to them. Next slide. So not only do we have the monies that I've just talked about, which was the $36 million worth of funding, which is HHRP, which is the Hurricane Housing Recovery Program, but we also have the opportunity to extend funds through the CARES Act. And so we just recently, about 3 weeks ago, received just over $600,000 to help individuals as a result of COVID-19 experience. And as you can see, the Florida Finance Housing Corporation distributed $120 million across the entirety of the state, and the allocation for the 67 counties was different. It was based on population. Our allocation was just over $600,000, as I mentioned. And with that, that's really what we're seeing is an opportunity to help individuals with rental assistance. As you know, the governor has suspended evictions until the 1st of September, and this is an opportunity for us to help individuals to catch up on their delinquent rental payments for those property owners or apartment complexes that they may be residing in. This is what we're seeing. Most of the folks applying for the access to these funds is to use it for rental assistance, but we have had a couple that have applied for foreclosure prevention, and that's exactly what these funds are designed to do. So far, we've spent about a third of this total amount of money in the last 3 weeks, and I expect it only to accelerate as time goes on. Again, going to the ReHouseBay.org program is the gateway, is the way to access these funds, and we can turn that in a very short period of time. Usually within 10 days, an individual can get that check to that landlord. If we could go to the next slide. As I talked about, this is really designed under the CARES Act to help people that have been impacted by COVID-19. They may have lost their job or significantly reduced income as a result of their businesses being curtailed. Certainly, this is designed to help them. We've got counselors that are HUD certified that are available to assist them, particularly in forbearance counseling. We also can do some emergency repairs that are available with these funds that are directly related to COVID-19 hardships. And then, of course, this is actually reimbursable all the way back to the 1st of March. And of course, the applicant is going to need to have all of the supporting documentation and correlate it to the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all experienced. We could go to the next slide. This funding is, as I mentioned, is a part of the CARES Act. And as we know that the eviction moratorium will be lifted, is expected to be lifted on the 1st of September. And that's going to put a lot of our citizens in a very compromising situation. And so what we want to do is help bridge that gap using this type of funding to help folks with rental assistance and or mortgage assistance. Again, these payments are not made to the individual applicant. They're made to their landlord or to their appropriate lender. If we could go to the next slide, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, and I'm asking all to help on this, and that is the 2020 census. As we've seen as lately as today's paper, it was on the front page, that you know, as a community, we are trailing in getting participation in the census. And so basically half of the people in our community have not participated in the census. This is important that we get involved in this. I'm encouraging everyone to share with their family and friends, social media, however they want to do that, but we need to encourage participation. It's a very simple process. Just go to 2020census.gov. And at 2020census.gov, it takes about 10 minutes to do the entire census. Certainly there's supposed to be enumerators, census takers that are coming to the door, and you'll see them with the official Census Bureau bag, their name identification. They will have masks on and maintain social distancing, but that's a very tedious process. It would be much better for the interest of this community if we could get folks to do that online. It really is take 5 to 10 minutes for the next 10 years. And because what happens from this census is enormous for the next 10 years. So I share that with you just as a parting comment. It helps us to determine how much funding gets allocated to the Bay County and to the city to include housing dollars. And it all ties back to what we're striving to do. With that, we are certainly available to take any of your questions. I've got the subject matter expert here, which is my right arm, Sheila Ware, and we'd be happy to entertain it. If not, I certainly invite you to go to rehousebay.org to learn more about what's going on in Bay County. Again, this program applies to every person in Bay County, regardless of what municipality you live in or whether you live in the unincorporated spaces. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, go ahead, Vince.
No, I was going to say thank you for the information. I'll open up with one question. So the income limits are on the website so that people understand that. Is that correct?
Yes, they are listed on the website. The income level goes up to 140% for each income category based on household size. So one of the things, though, we do have to take into account is that we can only assist a certain number of people in each category, whether they be very low, low, and moderate income category. So the 120% and the 140% both qualify as the moderate income category, which is the category that we can assist the least amount of people in.
Okay, Jill. But for some of us that might not be as good as math, so the 100%, give me like an example. Like say they make like just an example, and I know because a lot of people are going to have this question. Say they make $40,000. How would that play out?
They are going to be in the low income category, and they would definitely qualify.
Okay.
The max income for a household of 2 to qualify for the program is $77,840.
Okay.
All right, Vince, thank you for your question. And if anybody has a question, they can raise their hand and I can unmute them, or you can put the question in the chat. I'm going to share with you one question, Mark. Someone asked if other counties, such as Holmes counties, are you aware of them doing similar type of programs?
So all of the affected area of Hurricane Michael was allocated funding through the Florida Finance Housing Corporation. What their allocation amount was varies based on population and severity of damage to that community. The short answer is yes. I don't know the mechanism or the entity within those counties that are dispersing them. Like what we have here in Bay County, where we have a consolidated office that serves every citizen in Bay County.
So they could go to their local government office and find that information out.
Exactly. And then also on that, Debbie, with regard to the program that the governor announced last week, the first-time homebuyer assistance, the $15,000, That doesn't go through a housing office at all. It doesn't even come through our housing office. That goes directly through the lender. So that would be Florida Finance Housing Corporation makes that disbursement through to the lender directly with no application necessary through us. It's part of the application process that they have through their particular lender.
Well, and let me mention, Mark, that actually, I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week, we had a lender talking about that program in particular, and talking about her applications. Her phone's ringing off the hook with people making applications. So they can find the list of those lenders. They can reach out to us or find them on the Affordable Housing website.
Well, certainly, the Florida Finance Housing Corporation has the lenders listed at their website. Also, we have a link from ReHOUSE Bay back to their website that helps to point people in the right direction to those lenders that are already participating in that distribution of funds.
So Mark, we have another question. Somebody's indicated that they uploaded their application around 7 to 10 days ago. How soon should they expect a reply or confirmation of receipt?
So what will happen is they'll get assuming it's a completed application, they'll get assigned a housing specialist within 5 days to be able to help them to begin that journey. What we're finding is that many people have incomplete applications, and with that we continue to do daily touch points through email and or text, whichever they elected when they submitted their application for their preferred communication method. So if it's a completed application, they'll hear within 5 days of an assignment of a housing specialist. If it's not a complete application, our data team is continuing to reach out to the citizen or to the applicant to be able to ensure that their application is fully documented with all of the supporting documentation needed by the housing specialist to move forward.
And so if they had questions, is there a phone number they can call? I imagine it's quite overwhelming, but could they reach out to Sheila directly, or would you prefer them to email you if they have questions?
Yep.
Email would be the preferred method. They can email rehousebay@pcgov.org, or they could do sware@pcgov.org. Also, once they receive the documentation that they will receive an email stating that their application has been received and it's been submitted. Then probably about 4 days later, they will receive another email requesting that they upload their documentation to the system. And then they will receive reminder emails, because they may go in and upload 2 documents and then come back, 3 days later and upload 3 more. Once all documentation has been uploaded, then they will receive the email that we've received all of their documentation, and then they'll be contacted by a case manager.
Perfect. Thank you, Sheila. And Richard went ahead and put that information back on the screen. Mm-hmm. I don't see any more questions in the chat or in the Q&A. And Richard, I see you're going to stop sharing your screen. And I would like to thank you again, Mark and Sheila, for participating. And we have our governmental affairs chair on the line. And Mike, I've went ahead and gave you the microphone if you'd like to unmute yourself and say a few words before we end our program. So Mike is the chair of the Governmental Affairs Committee.
Mr. McQueen, we appreciate so much. What a great presentation. I hope that we've had a lot of people watching on Facebook. The information that you've given us is valuable, and just being able to mimic that in other counties, maybe that will happen. We're trying to keep our finger on the pulse, but you bringing this program to us, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, Mike, thank you. And again, for the team there in the CPAR and all the realtors, it really is the flash to bang. It's not a week. You have to spread that out. So I'm asking that as you are starting to work with potential customers, particularly on their purchase assistance, that you get them uploaded early into that process. It's just not possible to have somebody apply today and expect by the end of the week that they would be able to be having funds. There's just there's too many inspections and checklist items that have to be done. So please plan early, but we stand ready to assist. Thank you all for what you do again to rebuild Bay County to be the premier county in the Panhandle of Florida. Thank you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mark. And there are a few extra questions. I'm going to go ahead and stay on and answer them, but we appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mark and Sheila. Y'all have a great day and stay dry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.